Well, it's Monday. Good to have you with us. It means it's time to pull some emails out of the in-depth mailbag. Got lots of messages about a range of topics. I want to start with the 2024 election, though. So Helen had a great question. She said, what happens to the money individual candidates receive for the campaigns? Love this one, Helen. Glad you're paying attention to it. The money can go to several places. Candidates can refund the donors. They rarely seem to do that one. They can send the money to charity, pass the money to the national party, PAC, or super PAC, or they can hang on to it, keep that cash for a future campaign. But leftover campaign money cannot be used for personal use. I also got an email about an election that didn't really have many of the campaign ads on TV. Heck, you might not even have ever heard of the position. David wrote and said, Dan, I heard you make the statement to the effect of the Wake County Soil and Water Conservation District, whatever that is. He went on to say, I encourage you learn more about the very important work this small agency is doing for Wake County. So, David, thank you for this email. I will say I definitely did not say that. Honestly, I'm a little offended that you would suggest that I would say
because most of the races are much smaller for city council seats or soil conservation district, whatever that is.
Okay, so are we recording all of these now? Is that what we're doing? You can blame me, or you can't, right? Is it really that hard to believe that I wouldn't know what that is? I mean, what is the Soil and Water Conservation District? Turns out it's not so hard to understand. In fact, they hold a poster contest every single year. Students from the area do a project about soil and water conservation. Atri Mandal won last year, 5th grader from Poe Magnet Elementary. If he understands this stuff, we can give it a shot, don't you think? Are we smarter than a 5th grader? Maybe. The viewer who emailed me, David, works on the Wake County Planning Board. We talked about this a little earlier today, and here is how he put it.
We all have to and probably enjoy eating. So our food supply is probably the primary focus of what we do. And we also certainly should desire to have clean drinking water, clean air, and healthy soils that go so hand in hand to producing, a healthy food supply.
Food, water, air, those are important. Soil and Water Conservation Boards started popping up in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl. Let's go to 8th grade history now. The Dust Bowl was a period of terrible dust storms that did severe damage to the farms in the central United States. People wanted more say at that time on how their government managed waterways and farmland. So a few federal laws passed allowing for local boards to address this. The very first Soil and Water Conservation Board began here in North Carolina in Anson County, which right near Charlotte. Today, there are boards all over the country. Ours has 3 elected members and 2 appointed ones. The board has a program that helps protect farms and keep waterways clean, and they help those property owners to pay for all of that. Now, you might think, why does this matter for Wake County? Isn't it mostly city and suburbs? Not at all. There are actually 691 farms, 77,000 acres of farmland in just Wake County. To put that into perspective, the town of Cary is about 39,000 acres. That means there are nearly 2 Cary's worth of just farmland here in Wake County. That's a lot of land, but there used to be much more. In the last 9 years, just 9 years, Wake County has lost nearly 23,000 acres of farmland to development. If this continues at that rate, the county will have 0 acres in the next 30 to 40 years. And it's not just Wake County. The American Farmland Trust ranked North Carolina number 2 for farmland lost. It's kind of interesting. The state that's number 2 for business is also number 2 for farmland lost. Growing business in the housing market requires development. I asked David how the soil and water conservation factors into all of that.
Being the eternal optimist, I truly do believe that there is a solution, but it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of hard work and a lot of collaborative thinking in that regard, and having all of these different people at the seat at the table to find that delicate balance and solution.
So I guess we should know what this board does, don't we, and who this is. This is Reese Walmsley. No, he doesn't work for the Geek Squad. Okay, that's what that picture kind of looks like, doesn't it? He is now the Wake Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor. Thank you, Therese, for this very important work. Let's move on to an email that we had saved in our inbox for some time. Charity asked, could you do a segment on the number of active military who receive food stamps? This is truly shameful that the men and women who serve our country don't make enough money to support their families. So what better day to get into this than to talk about it and get some answers than Veterans Day? See, every year, the news loves to show the 5Ks and the ceremonies honoring service members, and those are important. But let's talk about what could actually really help these men and women, these families. The Military Family Advisory Network found 1 in 4 active duty military families do experience food insecurity. 1 in 4. The number is 1 in 5 for all military and veteran families. That represents nearly 1.5 million veterans who often cannot put food on the table. Now, to answer Charity's question, less than 5% of those veterans are enrolled in what's called SNAP. That's the program providing food stamps. In fact, one of the areas struggling the most with this is Fort Liberty.
Over the course of the last several years, have hosted large-scale food distribution events in the 4 locations where we saw the highest frequency of food insecurity, and one of those was Fort Liberty.
So why aren't veterans enrolling to get food stamps? Well, the RAND Corporation did a study on this, and they have some ideas. And there are a few reasons. Veterans, for instance, may not know that they are eligible. They might be too proud to apply. They may perceive a stigma surrounding food stamps. But the big one has to do with how SNAP figures out who qualifies for that sort of thing. You see, most states include the VA benefits when calculating income for SNAP. Sometimes that makes the veterans ineligible for those food stamps. Last year, a bipartisan pair of senators introduced a bill to fix this, the Military Family Nutrition Access Act. But right now, it remains in committee. So while we wait on our lawmakers to get their act together, here are a few things that you can do. There are so many organizations that help veterans with money. Fisher House Foundation, Wounded Warrior Project, USA Cares, Operation Homefront, Homes for Our Troops. The list goes on and on. They take volunteers, of course, they take donations, and so many more ways to help. Let me know what you think. What stories do you want to see more in-depth coverage of? What questions do you have about the news for us, how we cover things? What are we missing? Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Be curious, think critically, send me your comments and questions, and we'll go in depth.